What is up, Clash peeps? Welcome back to Clash the Block. I'm Island Guy, and thank you so much for joining us today. On the agenda, what I wanted to talk about was kind of some feedback and some thoughts, comments, concerns, if you will, on the state of Clash of Clans. So let's go ahead and get into that. Alright, so if you're just joining us, you missed the intro. I'm just kidding, but no. So, talking about the state of Clash of Clans here, a State of the Union address, if you will, although I'm not the president and this is not the United States that I'm talking about. I'm talking about the game. So, with a lot of the changes that have happened really since the new year, both the updates with Town Hall 11, Grand Warden, Eagle Defense, that kind of stuff, and then the smaller, where they nerfed the witches a little bit, and now this most recent one where they buffed the Eagle, and what else did we get? Oh, the loot focus stuff, so loot cart, daily star bonus, that kind of stuff. With all this stuff that's been going on, basically the dynamics of the game have been changing, and I don't know if you want to call it an evolution. I guess that's sort of what's happening, but a lot of stuff's been going on, and there's been a lot of discussion, even within my clan, about kind of how each one of us has sort of been experiencing this. Yeah, I thought that I would kind of try and centralize some of these thoughts here in this video, and yeah, put it out there for you guys to listen to, and I don't know, maybe Supercell will come across it and they'll take a listen. What I want to start off with doing is reading a couple forum posts for you. Now, there's really two that I'm going to read. Well, sort of. I'm going to read the end of one, which is actually a forum post from our very own King Chris from our clan. And but before I do that, because that's definitely more of a serious one, there's a quite a funny one that I came across on the forum too, and I wanted to share that with you guys because I thought that it was pretty hilarious. So this is, and I can't remember because it's been shared so many times on the forum, when it was actually originally posted. This first one here, but I will go ahead and share it with you guys. So let's see. Actually, if I gotta find it first. Did I miss it? Oh, there it is. Okay, so it's titled Supercell, I thank you, with the thank you being in all caps. I'm quoting here from the post, so this is not me talking, but it is, something I'd probably say. Anyway, sorry, I'll get into it. I have previously been very critical of the recent updates. However, now I sing a different tune. Due to your strenuous efforts, I have been able to save almost $300 that I would normally have spent on your game. I have begun walking more, and I am taking a yoga class with my extra time. I am 19 pounds lighter, and by next Christmas, I will have saved enough to take a cruise. Everyone asks me, what's the secret to your weight loss success? I give you all the credit. I say that if Supercell had not ruined its game to such a shocking extent, I might still be on a couch, or I might still be a couch zombie, spending my time and money playing Clash of Clans. I have been frustrated. I have been angry and even a little bitter. But my monthly weigh-in taught me a valuable lesson. Every cloud has a silver lining. This and my nice bank account has certainly changed my tune. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. It wasn't easy to break an ingrained habit, but your hard work and determination made it happen. Just a hint. Please, please, please continue to ignore all the pleas to change just as you are right now. If you make the game good again, I might not be able to sustain these happy changes. Sincerely. End quote. So yeah, when I first started reading it, I was like, what? Thank you, Supercell. And then, yeah, obviously right off the get-go, you kind of get the vibe from it. But, and I read it pretty condescendingly. But, yeah, I mean, honestly, more and more players are getting pushed to that point, and that's kind of the idea behind this video, is to kind of share some of that with you guys. But, you know, there are varying degrees of it. I think that, you know, even within my own clan, I've seen steady drop-off from players' participation, even just in general in the game, or even in war. Just a decline in that activity since the updates have been occurring. And yeah, I think a few of us definitely noticed, but there wasn't a lot of discussion regarding kind of why it's happening. But over the last week ago, probably longer than that. But I think over the last week, we've really spent a lot of time as a clan just like sincerely discussing it. But it's tough because I think that primarily the reason why this is happening is that, you know, I've said this in a couple of my old videos, that players will experience the game in different ways, you know, depending on their style, the way that they play the game, those kind of things. They're gonna naturally be affected by changes and by how the game flows differently. And for some, it may not be as big of a deal as it is for others. For others, it's a game changer to the extent, like from the forum post I just read, to where it's like, okay, I'm not even gonna play the game anymore. Safe to say we haven't had anybody, at least as far as my knowledge, in our clan go quite that route. But still, there's been a pretty big decline, like I said, in activity in the game. And what's been vocalized a lot over the last few days or so, really, it's just been this dissatisfaction with Supercell on multiple fronts. I mean, I touched on some of this in my XMod video, talking about how companies should handle situations, even like in more specific to a company that has or produces a product that's being exploited, and how they respond to that exploitation, i.e. Apple and jailbreaking, versus how Supercell is responding to its exploitation by XMod. And I just kind of talked about some of my dissatisfaction with the lack of action by Supercell, and that's been centralized really a lot with the comments and concerns that have been occurring with the most recent updates, because there really is no communication when it comes to Supercell. I mean, I'm still not 100% sure because I haven't done the research to look. I don't have time for that, but I know that there was some sort of rumor or something that was going around that as soon as, basically right after Town Hall, the Town Hall 11 update, that like the Supercell dev team went on like vacation or something. But I don't know if that was a joke or if they really did. But their lack of communication was quite appalling, to the extent that, you know, even a pretty big YouTuber and somebody that is arguably maybe the closest YouTuber to Supercell, being Chief Pat, because Galadon, Chief Pat, you know, they're like three of a kind with Supercell. But, you know, even Pat came out with a video saying how dissatisfied he was with the lack of communication that was taking place, because there's this outpour of feedback, this outpour of comments and concerns with what's been going on with the game, and no response. No indication that there's even any thought or anything going into this feedback. If you were to go onto the Google Store or the App Store and look at Clash of Clans and look at the reviews, you'll see that there's obviously some good reviews that are going to be in there, but there's a whole lot of negative feedback that's going on. When you look at the forum, like this thread right here, which is the Supercell forum under Clash of Clans general loot feedback, loot treasury update feedback. This feed alone is 187 pages of comments. Now, as I'm scrolling through, I've seen a handful of real short positive comments like, hey, I think the game is great, thanks Supercell. But the majority of it are essays on why and how the game is messed up and what should be done to rectify it. And the interesting thing is that speaking with our clan leader, speaking with Blom, he was talking about what they've been doing with these forum posts, and where they came out with, even with the Town Hall 11 update, a forum thread for feedback, and then all of a sudden the thread was deleted and removed. People are joking around about this thread, like obviously at some point this is going to be deleted and removed, but it's interesting talking about the dynamic between a company, especially that we're talking in the gaming arena, right? A company and their player base. There's an interesting relationship that exists there, where I think any rational person, especially somebody that's worked in the business industry or has any experience on a managerial level, will know that it's impossible for you through your actions to please everyone. It's impossible to do that because there's such varying degrees on what people want and what people need, and so on and so forth. It's just not something that's going to be possible. However, there's this dichotomy that exists between a company that wants it and exerts absolute control over their product, and their player base that experiences that product, those changes, and expresses their whatever their experience is. Obviously in this instance it's primarily negative, but being able to express that and and work through those things are great. Now, I said this in my clan, and I know that it's been said publicly by Supercell, even by Jonas himself, that even with something like the Town Hall snipe and taking that away because that was such a big deal, the comments were made that was not how Supercell had intended the game to be played. Now, to some extent, I understand those concerns, and I understand those frustrations, if you will, from a company standpoint. Like, hey, this is how we want users to experience the game, or this is the way kind of we want things to flow. But on the flip side of that, in this environment, especially on a mobile platform, you have to come to the realization that what you're doing and the changes that you're making are ultimately going to have an effect, obviously, on your player base. And in reference to the Town Hall snipe, it's a perfect example of how Supercell, they knew that it was happening, that people were leaving the town halls out, that people were basically able to kind of stay invisible, and people that were climbing or trophy pushing could just snipe the town hall and then leave, and the other person would get a shield and all this stuff. And so they took action and made changes to the game to prevent that from happening. So they made it so that Town Hall snipe doesn't give you a shield. They made it so the Town Hall holds a higher percentage of loot, so even if they do take your Town Hall, they get more of your loot than they normally would. and they basically manufactured these walls to hold their players into this mold that they wanted. So this is how they wanted the game to be played. So that's what they did. They basically blocked everything off so that there's no other alternative but to play the game how they want you to play it. Now, as I said before, I understand to some extent these concerns or issues. However, as the game progresses and as evolution of the game occurs, like it is right now, players are going to find the way that best suits them to play the game. So there's got to be a power struggle that exists between making those changes and pushing player base away, and just, you know, letting the game go with the flow. And the thing that just is mind-boggling to me is that they'll take this approach when it comes to the Town Hall Snipe. They'll make an update. They will basically change dynamics in the game so that you are forced to put your Town Hall inside the walls. But they will sit on their hands when it comes to Xmod and its exploitation in the game, which is still happening. People are still Xmodding, and the Supercell just sits on their hands and they just let it go. So it's interesting seeing how that's happening. Now, my view on that is that they are obviously generating enough income or generating revenue from the players at Xmod to the extent that they feel that stopping it or doing things, taking action to prevent it from happening would drastically impact their revenue, because that really seems to be the only driving motivation for Supercell at this point is money. Now, I've also talked about this before too, where, you know, I think that, again, somebody who's been a part of the business world that understands kind of how companies operate, if you are familiar with terms like ROI, like return on investment, you know, you get that there has to be profit. The company has to be profitable to continue to offer the services that they do. So I get that aspect of it, but it's elevated far, far beyond that to where nothing else matters but that Supercell continues to make money. So what is happening is players are understanding that. Players are seeing it. It's becoming more and more apparent, and players are becoming more and more fed up with the way that Supercell has been operating. So a lot of our, or a few of our core players are not, like, they're not buying gems. They, you know, unless they get like a gem box or they get gems from clearing bushes, they're not really boosting. That in turn is, you know, means they're not spending as much time on the game. And that's kind of the natural progression that's been happening. And that's kind of what struck up the conversation about, okay, well, you know, why do we think these things are happening? Or why do we think that, you know, Supercell is doing these things? Because it's crazy. It's crazy thinking about the amount of communication, one-sided, from the players to the company about what's being done, so what changes are being done and how it's affecting them. Yet, no action and no response, not even a peep from Supercell on, you know, making alterations or changes. With the Town Hall Snipe, I doubt that that's something that they'll ever retract back to or go back to, you know, changing it so that the dynamics that they alter to prevent Town Hall sniping, I don't think that they'll ever revert back And I think, if anything, a lot of these newer updates that have been coming out, especially this loot one, are kind of more and more are evidence that Supercell's just trying to kind of throw a band-aid on the issue, or try and fix what they can without doing what they need to do. I have gotten to the point individually as a player where, you know, with making the drastic change at the new year from Town Hall 9 to Town Hall 11, you know, with all these updates upgrades, excuse me, and all these things that I have to get done now, I've been kept, you know, significantly busy to the point where I didn't see quite as much or quite clearly what's been going on most recently until really had a chance to pause and talk and go through some of that experience with my clanmates. So again, that's why I thought it was just a good idea to share some of that feedback with you. Now, when we started this video, I told you I had 2 forum posts that I wanted to read to you, and how I want to close this video is with the last paragraph from King Chris's post on the forum, which, you know, his whole post is quite an essay as well, but it really does kind of sum up, I think, how a lot of players, I would argue and say the majority of like real players, are feeling right now. So here you go. And this, of course, is quoting from the post, so these are not my words. It said, overall, the progress of this game is extremely slow, and on top of that, many of the changes that have been made have become an obstacle for your players, and not a good one. You have driven lots of good players away, and it's very sad. This was such a great game. Now, it's just whatever. I just don't expect much anymore, and I find myself playing way less, and it sucks because I did love to play. I hope things change soon, and that we get more variety and options to attack and accomplish as a clan. This update is just, well, not much of an update. Peace. And then you got the last thing is the peace emoticon, or emoji of the hand giving the peace sign. But yeah, that pretty much sums it up for kind of what's been going on with the game. And I think that a lot of the feelings that the players have now, their reactions to those things, like I said, are varying depending on kind of where they're at and kind of processing all this stuff that's going on. So as far as the state of Clash of Clans goes, I think that the Clash of Clans is at a turning point where there's obvious decline. There's decline in players. There's decline in even revenue from Supercell's standpoint. So I think that if Clash of Clans was a pirate ship, Supercell, essentially with their update, has blown a giant hole in the side of the ship. So obviously the ship is taking on water, and I think that the longer that it does, the further it's going to tip under the water, kind of like Titanic. The more of the boat that's going to fill up, the more of it that's going to tip underneath the water, and the harder, if at all possible, it will be to turn that around. So Supercell kind of has a couple different choices and things they can do. Now, Clash of Clans is not the only egg in their basket, so that's something that they will consider, you know, on their end. But they're either going to have to let Clash of Clans die by continuing to doing what they're doing, which is ignoring their players, basically giving them the middle finger and doing whatever they want, or they can listen to the people that are playing the game, and determine for themselves what adequate changes should be made, and for the love of all that is holy, communicate. If they just did those things. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see what the outcome is. You know, down the road here, I don't know. There might not be no more Clash Clans. I don't know, but I might have to start a yoga class or something. Start something. Start reviewing My Little Pony videos. Who knows? My Little Pony with Island Guy. I don't know what I would call that. But yeah, let's hope for the best. But let's prepare for the worst. That's how I'll leave it. Thank you guys so much. This is by far the longest videos I think that I've ever produced. So if you stayed through it, I appreciate it. Definitely means a lot to me. Appreciate the support. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to share some of your comments, your concerns, or feedback, or whatever that may be, leave it down in the comment section down below. I would definitely love to read any of those comments. Yeah, you got something, leave it down there. If not, hey, thanks anyways. And yeah, you enjoy the rest of your evening, your night, your morning, whatever time it is for you. For where you are, you enjoy that time. Thanks again. Island Guy out.